It's a fun day in the world of Magic the Gathering, as we have just gotten some tantalizing information about March of the Machines. The set is going to have a creature capable of delivering 11 poison counters in one go. We're getting crazy legendaries and even tokens that transform.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well, because we have gathered to take a look at all of the crazy March of the Machine teasers. So, if you're not familiar with this, basically what happens is before every set comes out, Mark Rosewater gives out a bunch of partial information about upcoming Magic the Gathering cards in the newest set. So we're going to start to actually get information on this fully at the end of the month. For now, we get fun little chunks that are designed to get you excited and make you wonder what possibly could be coming. And there is some awesome stuff on this list. The first thing it says, there are numerous cards that mechanically care about Phyrexians. If you're new to Magic, you may not realize this, but Phyrexians have been a part of Magic for pretty much the entire game, but they've never had their own particular creature type or thing specifically dedicated to that creature type. So this is a new era where we get specific Phyrexianized, themed, flavored, and actual mechanical variations for our gameplay. And there's something further down the list that actually ties into that is really cool. And for me, it's super exciting because I've always been a big fan of the Brothers War storyline, the Phyrexians, and all that goodness. Now they're crazy hyped and super powerful where they can convert you like that, right? So the stakes have gone right up. Next, we have a double-faced token, one that transforms. Double-faced tokens are nothing new. We've seen those in Commander decks, but those are all, here's two different tokens that have nothing to do with each other. You can flip them over if you need a goat or a warrior, whatever it is. But this is specifically a token that's going to function like a double-faced card. So on one side, it's the starting side of the token, and then when you meet whatever conditions, it flips over. So the idea of these boosting, transforming tokens, that's a cool concept, and it does kind of deal with one of the things that tweaks me about double-faced cards, is the always having to take them out of the sleeves and flip them and reset them and stuff. It actually really does impact my decision making when it comes to putting my cube together. Actually, it happened last night where I'm debating over these two flippers right here, Suspicious Stowaway and Harika Dumnathi, and I'm like, man, the more flip cards you put into your things, like the more you have to sit there, pull them out, fiddling with it and all of it, and just go, is it worth it? Do you know what I mean? Depending on the power level of the cards. But when it comes to tokens, you don't have that. They don't go in your deck. You don't got to worry about it. You sleeve them up, sure, put it in a translucent sleeve on both sides so you can see either side of the token. So I am definitely cool with Wizards finding more ways to explore the double-faced concept without necessarily making every card in my deck into a transformer flippity-do. It does give more options, but it also does make the game more fiddly. And since we all sleeve our stuff up, it adds extra layers, right? Next up, we have a card that costs X and 4 blue. And my first thoughts when I see 4 blue and X goes, oh, that's going to be obnoxious. Whatever it is, it's going to be annoying. My first thought goes, is this another one of those stealing your creature style spells? Is it like 4 blue and X, steal X creatures, but each target has to come from a different player, or some dumb nonsense? Like, for nowadays Magic, when you see 4 mana symbols of a particular color, it usually means you're going to get a powerful effect restricted to that color. So this, to me, sounds like something that's going to be incredibly obnoxious. It makes me think back to that mass manipulation spell they made where you could just, like, it was double X and a bunch of blue and just, oh, let me take all your dudes. Oh, it always felt awful when that happened. Blue is such a vicious color in the game. It's the color that, like, when you're the one who's wearing the boot, you're like, yeah, boy. But when you're feeling the boot, oh, no. Green never makes you feel that way. Green may make you feel like, why did they slap so much goodness onto this creature? But it never makes you feel cheesed out the way that blue does, right? Blue is the biggest cheese bag color in Magic. The hot take, first time anybody's ever said it anywhere on the internet. Blue is the cheese bag color of Magic. First anti-blue statement ever made anywhere on the internet. Okay, next up. A variant of a mechanic returns to a premiere set for the first time since it originally appeared. This is one of those where you look at it and go, this is so vague that it literally is meaningless. You've got a mechanic that's coming to a premiere set that hasn't been back to a premiere set since the first time it was in one, and it's a variation of it. I find these to be the most difficult to get hyped about because where's your brain even go with it? But the next item, right, is very funky, and that is a legendary creature returns not seen since Homelands, right? Homelands, if you didn't know, was a terrible Magic the Gathering set. It had cool flavor, but it had garbage cards in it. Like, absolute garbage to the point where if you want to get a complete set of Homelands right now, you can pick it up for like $100. And it's been out for almost 30 years. So in terms of legendaries, the set really only has a few that feel like obvious choices. Baron Senger is an epic elder vampire who has sired his own lineage of vampires. There's a whole bunch of stories about him, and he actually harkens back from the original days of Magic, where if you don't know how the flavor worked back then, planeswalkers would go and find these actual beings. So these legendary creatures, there's only one of them anywhere in the multiverse, right? So somebody found the Baron and summoned him to this world using their magic, forced him to fight for them, but then abandoned them. In the earliest Magic lore, when planeswalkers battle each other, the loser would usually have to flee for their life, and their summoned creatures would just be stranded on whatever plane they were left on. And so that's actually how you end up with the Baron Senger in the world he's in. So he's really cool. And then you have Ison, right? And Ison was originally a paladin, and his plan was to take down Baron Senger. And so he basically went into the Baron's service, and he's trying to become a vampire so that he can become powerful enough to take down Baron Senger. But the Baron, he's too smart. So instead, he actually had Ison turned into a shade and bound to a ring. So he turned him into a servant thrall. So Ison, who originally set out to be a savior, was actually turned as a weapon against his own people, right? And we've seen Ison Shade get a redo in the Masters. I feel like Baron or Ison are the best two choices. But for real, I would laugh so hard if they did something weird like Hasdur the Abbot. He is the most derpy looking dude. He's just a dude sitting in a chair. Hasdur the Abbot, I don't know that he figures into any part of whatever story. So the randomness of him showing up, I guess it could be Autumn Willow too, because she's like a nature vibe spirit. But I feel like Wizards is going to lean into popularity, and the two that I mentioned are the most popular beefy boys. So those are my top two choices, but please let it be Hasdur the Abbot. That would be amazing. Okay, next item on the list, a creature capable of dealing 11 poison counters. Now, the way that I read this is, it has to be capable of dealing 11 poison counters in one shot. Otherwise, this is a fairly pointless statement, as tons of creatures can deliver 11 poison counters over the course of time. So if this literally just turns out to be this creature sometimes can give you 2 poison counters and sometimes 3, and I can add it up to 11, then that is complete cheesebaggery on this list, right? So that is the little asterisk I'm putting up there. I read this as we're straight up getting something that can do a poison death blow. That is a crazy concept. Take all of the 11 poison, right? You can only get that from what? Blightsteel Colossus? That's not... They're not bringing Blightsteel Colossus back into Standard. It's got to be something else. Remember Blightsteel? No, right? That would be wild. Anyways, next item on the list. Some planes show up in card names that have never done so before. That's fun for a flavor perspective. Add a little bit to a plane. It's literally just saying card names are going to include the names of locations that we haven't had in card names before. So strange, but not big, right? The next item on the list is big. Ren returns with a new partner. So we've had Ren in 6, and we currently have Ren in 7. If you don't know about Ren, Ren is a really cool concept. Ren is a dryad, right? Most dryads are bound to a particular tree. They can't leave that tree. Tree gets cut down, that dryad's done for. Ren was living in her home forest, living a normal dryad life, when a massive conflagration started. There's this massive magical fire that's tearing through her home, and it's going to wipe out all of her family, everybody, right? She draws the fire into herself somehow. And so she's got this magical fire embedded into her, and it allows her to merge with specially selected trees. She can hear their song. They sing to her, and she merges with them. And then when she's merged with one of these trees, that gives her the capability to planeswalk. That is an epic concept. So we've actually seen the story of her finding the tree 7. I cover that over on my Fantasy Geographic Lore channel if you want to know how that went down. Teferi was involved in everything. But we're going to go from Ren having number 7 to the next item on the list. And spoiler, heavy spoiler, because I'm about to tell you exactly what it is, my friends. Realmbreaker, the Phyrexian tree that they're using to invade all of the different worlds. Ren is going to meld with Realmbreaker. Now, I don't know if that's going to end up with a Phyrexianified version of her and she's going to be corrupted, or if it's going to be the purified version and she will actually be the branch that people can use to get from world to world. You know what I mean? She'll be the one who guides it, because underneath it all, Realmbreaker is in pain, right? Like, you have Tyvar saying Realmbreaker is a monstrosity, it's not alive, it's an abomination. But Ren can actually hear it singing to her, and it's in pain, and she wants to help it. And that's what we're gonna get. That part of the story is super epic. Speaking of which, I've been covering the entire March of the Machine storyline over on Fantasy Geographic. We already have 6 videos out with 4 more to come. So if you want to know all about this story with Ren and 7 turning into Ren and Realmbreaker, then head on over and check it out. There's a lot of fun details. But let's not get too hung up on that. We've got more to talk about. Next up, we've got 2 draft archetypes that have a creature type matters components. One of which is Phyrexians. So there's going to be a big draft around Phyrexian concept in March of the Machines. That makes sense. I'm cool with that. Anything that leans into Phyrexia gets big points from me because I'm super biased. They are my favorite villains from Magic's history, right? So the next item is the 10th blank and blank sword. So we've had the Sword of Feast and Famine, Hearth and Home, all that stuff. We're going to be getting the final installment in the cycle. And these swords always deliver the goodness. Like, are there any that haven't? They're varying power levels, but they pretty much all deliver the goodness in one form or another, giving you big, splashy, massive effects, protection, and a creature boost, all in a tight little package for a reasonable amount of mana. So I do wonder if we're going to see in the future more powerful variations of the swords that cost less to put out and give you stronger abilities, because we really are on that power train. But next things we're going to talk about are rules text that'll be showing up on cards. So a card that says you can cast spells with flash or flying from the top of your library. That to me sounds like a blue creature or a blue enchantment, right? Flash and flying both tie heavily into blue, and I feel like it's not just going to be an until end of turn effect. So creature and enchantment feels like the most likely candidate for that ability. The next one up is an aura, god, or demigod card. Super curious about this one because that ties into what's going on over on Theros. And we know that a Johnny has been sent over there. On the surface, Norn told him to subjugate the gods, but she also has another goal that's going on there. So I'm super curious about how all that is going to play out and what kind of card this will be. My first thought was maybe this will be destroy target, whatever, but it says an aura god or demigod card. So the wording of it doesn't really play into destroy target X, right? Next item on the list is where X is the excess damage dealt this way. This is an ability that we're seeing more and more frequently in Magic. It's basically the concept of overkill, right? And I really dig this, where it's like, yo, if you do more damage than the creature's toughness, then that is excess damage, and you get a benefit for that. There was actually something called Overkill Ante back in the day when we played for each other's cards. And if you basically, if you put your opponent at -10, you won 10 cards from his deck. Just flip over the top 10 cards, they're mine. Those days were wild. We played all kinds of craziness. I feel like a dinosaur. We used to play for each other's marbles in the dirt too. So wow, man, I'm like, this is what a trip. Anyways, next item. Oh, no, actually, sorry. No, XX? Yeah, excess damage thing. So this is normally used when we're dealing with burn spells. Do extra burn spell damage, do it to another target, hit the player. Or we've seen some red-blue cards where it's if you do excess damage, draw cards that way. So I'm expecting it to be heavily keyed into red, right? That's what I see. Red or red-blue. After that, we've got this spell can't be copied. What a strange statement. Now, what could this possibly be referencing? Well, we talked about how there's going to be legendary instants, right? Maybe legendary sorceries as well. And I don't think we're talking about the type we've already seen where you need to have a legendary creature out to be able to cast one of these. I think this is something different. We saw from the stuff that came out of the landfill, now it was just a foreign translation, but it did literally look like it said legendary instant. So if we have a legendary spell with a very incredibly powerful effect, tacking on this spell can't be copied both fits the flavor and limits the power level of you being able to duplicate it. So that is a very, very curious statement. This spell can't be copied. I like it. After that, we've got activate only if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. So this is a pretty standard style creature or artifact ability where as long as you've cast 2 or more spells, you get to use it. So maybe it's tap to draw a card, but do it only. It's like Mage Blaster's Journal. Ooh, look at me. I'm blasting magic into it. Okay, you blasted enough magic, draw a card. You know, that kind of an idea. What do we got next? X twice, where X is the number of lands you control. So that could be easy. Like X, gain X life twice, right? Where X is the number of lands you control. Do X damage twice, where X is the number of lands you control, draw cards. There's a lot of effects that really easily slot in. I mean, the life gain effect feels like it would be garbage unless it was super cheap. Like just gaining life equal to double lands you have out. You know, what are you going to cost that at? That sounds terrible. So it's probably not life, now that I think about it. Really, actually, yeah, nowadays, magic power has moved up to the point where life gain has to be stratospheric to even register, right? Like, you have to be able to gain obtuse amounts of life, or it has to be stapled onto a super efficient creature to make any kind of difference. Magic is so efficient now. All right, what's next? Whenever a permanent you control transforms, or a permanent enters the battlefield under your control transformed. This, I mean, I have no idea what kind of benefit it's offering. I don't know what kind of color we'd be looking at because transforming isn't tied to a particular color. Maybe it's an artifact that gives you a benefit. The transforming can fit into all kinds of different themes. The first one that pops into my head is straight up werewolves. I don't know if the day to night and the werewolf, I don't know if every flipping over a card actually counts as technically transforming, or they have other abilities, because things feel so muddled now. When I think of werewolves, I go, well, some werewolves operate this way, some operate with day and night, and wait, do they even count as transformed? I know they're flipping. I'm pretty sure it's transformed, but off the top of my head, this game is so complex. I need some kind of magic historian. Uh-oh, wait, that's me and I don't know. Okay, so moving on to the next item, because that one doesn't really fire up my imagination that much. If the opponent protects it, remove a defense counter from it. So this is going to be a weird scenario where your opponent has the ability to choose to protect something and remove a defense counter from it. Now, I'm wondering if maybe this is a hint about battle cards. We've never heard of protecting something, and defense counters aren't something that we're really familiar with as well. And protecting, defending, all that does feel like something that could happen on a battle card. So that could go either way. It might not be a battle card. It might just be like a regular magic card. Who knows? That to me goes either way. The battle cards, I'm really curious to see what's going on with them. Now, we have Phyrexians. They give us a bunch of different Phyrexian creature types, which get me excited. We've got a Phyrexian bear rhino. What is that like? Are they like vivisecting and stitching things together into crazy beasts like that? So bear rhino, devil, it's all right. Phyrexianized devil, that's a funky concept. Phyrexian dog warriors, so maybe these are people from Amonkhet, possibly, or Tarkir, maybe, right? We've got Phyrexian jackals, Phyrexian samurais, so that's Kamigawa, right? That's obviously Kamigawa. Phyrexian shades, so, Ice and Shade as a Phyrexian? I mean, it doesn't say legendary. It doesn't say legendary. So maybe Ice and Shade comes back as a Phyrexian. We've got sharks, tree folk, Viashinos, weirds. We've got a bunch of vibrations going on because they're doing construction nearby. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's distracting me. So if you've heard any during the video, that's what it is. I can feel it through my feet. It's super distracting. Okay, so now we've got people who are fighting against the Phyrexians, some of their creature types. So we're going to have Moonfolk Ninja. We're going to have Aetherborn Vampires. We've got Fungal Rabbits. Fungus rabbits. That's a big curiosity to me. Dwarven pilots, we've seen a bunch of. Raccoon warriors, that says to me Capenna, right? Because that's where we saw those bootleggers. Goblin spell shaper, that's a funky idea. Goblins shaping spells. Wolverine dinosaur, that's out there. And then the legendary creatures are where it gets nutty. We've got elder giant dog. What? An elder giant dog. We've had elder dragons, but it's a giant and a dog. Is it a gigantic dog? Is it a dog giant man? Like, what is that? Then we've got ape dinosaur turtle, a legendary ape dinosaur turtle fighting against the Phyrexian. I feel like that might be an Icorian behemoth. You know what I mean? Some kind of crazy beast from Icoria. But the last one, legendary creature, Cyclops homunculus. I think this is a team up. I think this is a team up between Fibblethip the Lost, right? Oh, he's always lost, except not this time. He's coming in riding on the shoulders of what's his name? Borborygmios or Borborygmios? Anyways, the big gigantic Cyclops who uses part of a street as a club, like boom, this guy is eggs we eat. He barely speaks. When he does, it's monosyllabically. He is just a gigantic Gruul destroyer. He ruled them before Noodle Boy Domri showed up and was like, I'm the toughest Gruul boy. And then Borborygmos was like, I guess you are. Off I go. And Domri was like, that's right. I'm super tough. And I'm going to lead the Gruul, and everyone's going to love me. Nobody loved Domri. Spoiler. Nobody. So, Domri's gone. Borborygmos with Fibblethip on his back. The two one-eyes. Together they get to live the two-eyed life. I so want that to be reality. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what I'm hoping for. Anyways, that ends all of the spoilers, my friends. The teasers, I should say. It is spoilers too. But if you want to know what's going on with the story, head on over to Fantasy Geographic. I got 6 installments already out. Other than that, I'll see anybody who wants to come and hang out tonight in the live stream over on my other YouTube channel. Big shout out to my patrons. I'll see you all for the next video.